So I have some questions
Yeah,
because
great.
I know there's many leaders out there, and many they just start ministries and they feel the call, to start something. But many of them, they are like natural leaders or they were built on the way. But for sure, many have a lot of doubts and questions, and like where should they start polishing their leadership, or how should they start molding to be a better leader?
Yeah.
So where should they start, or what should they focus on?
That's a really important question. And, it's interesting you mentioned different people in leadership stages. Somebody that's been a leader for a long time, somebody that's been in training for a leader, and someone that's perhaps just getting started in leadership. But there is a common need in each one of those different categories. So whether you're just starting or you've been in leadership for a while, a long time, there is a common need. And I would just summarize that as saying self-awareness. And think for a moment of the message to the Laodiceans, Revelation chapter 3. What does Jesus tell us as a people?
Yeah, that we think we have everything, but we have nothing.
Yeah, so we think one thing, but we don't know something else. And it's interesting that's addressed to the angel of the church, which in its primary sense would be the leadership in the church. So we could pull that lesson out of that text and apply it to us as leaders as well. We have a problem. We think we're one way in our leadership, and we don't realize we're a different way. We're not really self-aware.
Self-awareness. So what things should be self-aware as a leader?
Well, let's kind of broaden it a little bit and then narrow it down, all right?
Okay.
So again, if we take those three stages, beginning, medium, and long-term leaders, really the beginning leaders oftentimes are more painfully aware because they're like just getting started. Unless, of course, they're under the delusion, well, that I got this and I can do it, which they'll learn pretty quickly that's not the case. Long-term leaders face a different challenge, and that is they've been using their leadership style for so long, and it's served them well because they're still in leadership. At least it served them well on some levels, that they think this is the way to be. From personal experience, I can say that the longer you're in leadership, the more difficult it is for someone to come and tell you, you need to work on this area. So it's really hard to get that feedback. So in answer to the question, how do we get feedback? What are the areas we need to look at? And I would suggest, because we're whole beings, that there are 4 different aspects of leadership that we could think about. There's the intelligence, the intellect dimension of leadership. There's the emotional aspect of leadership, physical, and then the spiritual aspect of leadership. And each one of those is a different sphere in which we need to grow in our awareness.
Okay, so I'm a leader, and of course I need to get feedback, as you said. So what is the best way to get feedback? Like, should I put a form out for people to fill and ask them, how am I doing? What's the best way?
Yeah, so best, a lot of that's going to depend on circumstances. But one of the things that I often use with leaders is a 360 evaluation, where you're getting input from a broad group of people. So that can be really helpful. But something else, something as simple as a personality assessment, where you can see aspects of your personality that you may not see. So that would be another external instrument. Ellen White has this very interesting quotation. I can't remember exactly where it's found, but she mentioned that we should study our life the way an editor would look at a page of a book, like looking for mistakes and to be corrected. But we do very little of that. we really don't take time to self-examine ourselves. We don't follow the advice of the psalmist, search me, O God, and try me and know my heart. So that's a foundational beginning, is for spiritual leaders, for leaders that are interested in promoting the kingdom of God, which I trust most of our listeners are. That's like bedrock, is that time with God to look at how I'm acting in different areas. Now, the problem, of course, is we think we're okay. And so we tend to interpret what we're doing in that light. So then another aspect of leadership is developing a trusted team, or team members that trust one another, and being open to a team where people feel the freedom to confront you and say something direct towards you.
Now, regarding feedback, okay, so let's say I did an evaluation and I knew what I needed to change, learn, but then how frequently during my leadership lifetime should I get that feedback? Every year, every few years, every decade?
Oh, good question. So let's just stick with the 360. I would say every few years. And I can't think of a single leader that does that. Unfortunate. We're busy.
Yeah.
You expose yourself to feedback from other people. I've had several leaders tell me, I don't want to do that. Why not? What are people going to say? Well, that's the whole point. You want to grow.
You want to know what they say.
You want to know what they think. But something else on that. Our tendency is when we get feedback like that, we'll see the things that are positive, and hopefully everybody would have something positive. But then we gravitate toward the negative, and one negative can outweigh 10 positives in our mind. Really, it shouldn't be that way. We should recognize, okay, maybe I got a weakness in this area, but what are my strengths and how can I build on those? So I try to frame it in a much more positive direction. Let's find out what you're really doing well so you continue to do well in that. And let's see in areas where you may need to get an assistant, or you may need to delegate something to, or maybe you need to learn something.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've talked with people that sometimes during conversations they can complain about certain aspects about leaders. And it's but have you talked to them? It's no, if I do that, they'll fire me.
Yeah.
Or they're going to kick me out of the team. Forget it. I better stay quiet.
So what does that illustrate? If I'm a team member and I feel that way, what's the issue?
A lot of lack of trust.
Lack of trust.
Yeah.
And so somehow the leader hasn't communicated, or the person hasn't understood that the leader really is open for it.
Yeah. Okay, that was all about feedback and getting, but the aspects that you just talked about, it was intellectual, physical, emotional, spiritual, I think, those four. So what about those? What is each area about?
Okay, well, let's spend a little bit of time. Let's talk about the intellectual aspect of leadership. And this is an important trait. So people like leaders that get things done, that have a certain level of competency in their areas. And so that can be connected to, education or training or the ability to broadly understand things. So intellect plays a major role in leadership. The question is that my default? By that I mean, when I enter into a leadership circumstance or a conflict or a problem, is the tool I always go to intellect? Because that's not the only part of leadership. There's the emotional part. So I may be very intellectually aware, very smart. I know leaders like this. They're very good, very organized, very detailed, have plans, move those plans forward. Really emotionally, it's like they're walking around in a block of ice, and no one can feel any warmth from them. So that's going to hinder their leadership. And for each of these areas, there's something similar people could do. What I recommend, if a leader's really wanting to grow, let's take intellect here, and think back to the time where they had a leadership experience that went particularly well, depending on their intellect. I figured out the problem. I was able to come to a solution. This went really well. And just be aware of it. Kick it around. Play with it mentally. But then also think of a time where my intellect did not serve me well. And think through the dynamics there. What was it that tripped me up here? So that is, the beginning point of creating an awareness. And once I have this sensitivity to awareness, okay, this could be a trap for me, then I can learn to pay attention better. Oh, I'm in one of those circumstances again. Maybe my intellect's going to hijack me one more time. And so once I begin to pay more attention, then I can make a decision to start acting differently. So awareness, attention, change. That's kind of the process. But it all starts with that foundation of awareness.
Cool. Great. So, if they want to know more, if they want to get in touch with you, because I know that you give these assessments, right? Like
Yes.
360 assessments,
Right.
Personality assessments, and you coach leaders in a way. So how can they contact you?
First, it would be a privilege to be in touch with any of your listeners. Be happy to do a free personality assessment and a free debrief, 1 hour. We can do it anywhere in the world via Zoom. So
Cool.
Really be a privilege. A 360 is a little bit more detail. But if they want to get in touch with me, they can communicate through email. That would be pretty easy. Stephen@percepta.coach. Or they could text me. Communicate with me one way or the other.
Okay, so all of that information is going to be in the description below. So you can get in touch with Stephen and get whatever you need from him, because you have free things that you're giving, right?
Yes.
The personality assessed and the 1 hour debrief, right?
Yeah. So, and I have some handouts to help people work through self-awareness as well.
Okay, great. So guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was useful. Put in the comments below whatever you want to know more about so we can talk about it on our next video. And that's it. See you in the next one.